Hey, music lovers, ready for a blast from the past? Today, we're diving into the fascinating stories of 20 incredible bands from the 1960s that time almost forgot. Get ready for some serious nostalgia. 1. The McCoys, from garage band to guitar heroes.
Sloopy lives in a very bad part of town.
Remember Hang On Sloopy? The McCoys, the masterminds behind this 1965 chart topper, were the epitome of garage band success. These fresh-faced teenagers blended rock with bubblegum pop, creating an irresistible sound that dominated the airwaves. Starting as suburban high school students under the name Rick and the Raiders, they quickly made waves in the Midwest music scene. Their early single, You Know That I Love You, on the Sonic label gained local attention, but it was Rick Derringer's exceptional guitar skills that set them apart. The band's professionalism earned them spots alongside bigger acts, whom they occasionally outshined. While the McCoys' mainstream success was short-lived, Rick Derringer's subsequent solo career kept their legacy alive. 2. Spiral Staircase, the one-hit wonder that keeps on spinning. Some songs stick in your mind forever, even if you can't remember who sang them. That's the story of Spiral Staircase and their timeless hit, More Today Than Yesterday. Their big break came in 1967 when Gary Usher, the legendary producer behind the Beach Boys and the Byrds, discovered them performing in El Monte, California. Columbia Records signed them, but with conditions: a name change inspired by the 1940s film The Spiral Staircase, and a hippie makeover complete with longer hair. Despite creating an enduring classic that still graces oldies radio stations today, the band's spotlight quickly faded, leaving behind just one perfect musical moment. 3. The Box Tops, Memphis sound pioneers.
Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby just wrote me a letter.
The Box Tops made history as Memphis's first homegrown artists to score a #1 hit recorded in their hometown. Their breakthrough single, The Letter, produced by Dan Penn at American Recording Studio, dominated Billboard's charts for 4 weeks in 1967 and sold over 4 million copies. Between 1967 and 1969, they released 4 studio albums and 10 singles, with Cry Like a Baby becoming another massive hit, reaching #2 and selling over 2 million copies. Before they became the Box Tops, Alex Chilton, Bill Cunningham, John Evans, Danny SMI, and Gary Talley were members of a local band called the Devils. The name change coincided with the release of their breakthrough hit, The Letter, reflecting both their evolving musical direction and the need to distinguish themselves from similarly named groups. What set the Box Tops apart was their distinctive, soulful sound, anchored by Alex Chilton's gritty, Memphis-tinged vocals. Critics often remarked that they looked whiter but sung blacker than most bands of their era, particularly on their sensational 1967 debut single. This unique blend of styles made them stand out in the crowded music scene of the 1960s, though internal changes and shifting musical trends eventually led to their decline. 4. Peppermint Rainbow, A Taste of Sunshine Pop.
Not if you're planning to say goodbye. Don't touch my face in the...
Baltimore's sunshine pop sensation Peppermint Rainbow started their journey in 1967 under the name New York Times. After building a following through local performances in the Mid-Atlantic region, talent agent Alan White brought them to New York, where producer Paul Leka was immediately impressed and signed them to Decca Records. Their debut single, Walking in Different Circles with Pink Lemonade, failed to make waves, but their second release, Will You Be Staying After Sunday, became their claim to fame. The song spent 14 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, reaching #32 in May 1969, and sold over 1 million copies, earning a coveted gold disc. It also achieved success in Canada, peaking at #19. 5. The Flying Machine, Smile and Say Goodbye.
I guess you're lonely now. Love's coming to an end. But darling, only now.
The story behind the infectious hit Smile a Little Smile for Me belongs to British bubblegum pop group The Flying Machine. Emerging from the ashes of Pinkerton's Assorted Colors, known for their 1966 UK hit Mirror Mirror, the band featured Tony Newman, Sam Kemp, Stuart Coleman, Steve Jones, and Paul Wilkinson. Their 1969 single Smile a Little Smile for Me soared to #5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and earned a gold disc for selling 1 million copies. Despite this impressive debut, their follow-up singles, including a cover of Baby Make It Soon and The Devil Has Possession of Your Mind, failed to replicate this success, leading to the band's eventual dissolution. 6. The Left Banke, pioneers of Baroque pop. New York City's music scene in 1965 welcomed an innovative group that would help define the Baroque pop genre. The Left Banke brought a fresh perspective to the emerging psychedelic era, blending classical influences with contemporary pop sensibilities. The Left Banke emerged from New York City in 1965, creating waves with their distinctive pop rock sound. The original lineup featured Michael Brown on keyboards, George F. Cameron on drums, Tom Finn on bass, Jeff Winfield on guitar, and Steve Martin on vocals. Their music stood out thanks to Martin's soaring, expressive vocals and Brown's elegant orchestral arrangements, complete with lush strings, earning them the Baroque pop label from the press. Their masterpiece, Walk Away Renee, reached #5 on the Billboard pop charts in late 1966, followed by the equally enchanting Pretty Ballerina, which peaked at #15 in 1967. Despite these successes, their third single, Desiree, barely made it into the Hot 100 later that year. By 1969, poor management, financial troubles, and internal conflicts led to the band's dissolution. The band briefly reunited in the early 70s to record 2 songs for the Hot Pants Holiday 1971 soundtrack. Their single, Love Songs in the Night, was released by Buddha Records, but failed to chart. Martin, Cameron, and Finn attempted one final collaboration in the late 1970s, recording Strangers on a Train. This album remained unreleased for 8 years before finally seeing daylight in 1986. 7. The Fortunes, Birmingham's Harmony Heroes. The Fortunes, an English harmony beat group from Birmingham, shot to international fame in 1965 with You've Got Your Troubles, which dominated the US, Canadian, and UK top 10s. Their success continued with hits like Here It Comes Again and Here Comes That Rainy Day Feeling Again, extending into the 1970s with Storm in a Teacup and Freedom Come Freedom Go. Their journey began with Summertime, Summertime, credited to the Fortunes and the Cliftons. While their second single, Caroline, didn't chart, it gained immortality as Radio Caroline's signature tune. After several unsuccessful releases, they struck gold with You've Got Your Troubles in 1965. When Glenn Dale departed in 1966, Shel McRae stepped in, but subsequent singles struggled to match their earlier success, though their musical legacy endures in pop history. 8. Rose Garden, folk rock's brief bloom. Los Angeles gave birth to Rose Garden, a folk rock ensemble that made their mark during their brief active period in 1967 and 1968. The band evolved from an earlier group called the Blokes, formed in 1964, which had primarily covered the Byrds' repertoire. Despite their short lifespan, Rose Garden's contribution to the folk rock scene remains noteworthy, demonstrating how even brief musical ventures can leave lasting impressions. By 1967, Los Angeles-based folk rock group Rose Garden had finally found their perfect lineup. Diana DeRose took the helm with lead vocals and acoustic guitar, while John Noren handled the 12-string guitar and backup vocals. James Grang brought his talents on lead vocal and guitar. William Fleming held down the bass, and Bruce Bowden kept the beat on drums. Their breakthrough came when they signed with Atco Records in 1967. Their hit single, Next Plane to London, soared to number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart that year, establishing them as rising stars in the folk rock scene. Following this success, they released their self-titled album in January 1968, but lightning didn't strike twice. Their subsequent releases failed to capture the same magic. The band's promising journey was cut short by internal conflicts and the Vietnam War draft, which claimed 2 of their members. By the end of 1968, Rose Garden had withered away. Despite their brief time in the spotlight, Next Plane to London remains a cherished classic that perfectly captures the essence of late 60s folk rock. 9. The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, the God of Hellfire. Picture this, a man with extreme face paint, wearing a flaming helmet, belting out powerful operatic vocals. That was Arthur Brown, who formed his eponymous band in 1967. The lineup featured Vincent Crane's masterful Hammond organ and piano work, Droshan Thieker on drums, and Nick Greenwood handling the bass. Their theatrical performances and Crane's complex organ arrangements set them apart, but it was their 1968 hit Fire that truly ignited their career. The song sold over 1 million copies, earned a gold disc, and dominated charts worldwide, reaching number 1 in the UK and Canada and number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Their self-titled album enjoyed similar success, climbing to number 2 in the UK, number 6 in Canada, and number 7 in the US. The band shared stages with legendary acts like The Who, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, and Joe Cocker. Brown's opening line in Fire earned him the lasting nickname, the God of Hellfire. However, the pressures of maintaining their elaborate shows and internal tensions eventually led to the band's demise. Nevertheless, their influence on theatrical rock remains undeniable. 10. The Beau Brummels, America's British Invasion Answer. The Beau Brummels emerged from San Francisco in 1964 as America's first response to the British invasion, often mistaken for being British themselves. Their hits Laugh, Laugh, and You Tell Me Why showcase their unique folk rock sound, setting them apart from their contemporaries. Early success came under the guidance of producer Sylvester Stewart, later known as Sly Stone of Sly and the Family Stone fame. However, poor management decisions and promotional missteps plagued their career. The loss of guitarist and primary songwriter Ron Elliott, whose diabetes prevented him touring, dealt another blow to the band's momentum, ultimately leading to their breakup in the late 60s. Interestingly, their original recording of Laugh Laugh made it into pop culture history when it was featured in an episode of The Flintstones called Shinrock A Go-Go, proving their lasting impact on 60s music culture. 11. Classics 4, The Sultry Sound of Spooky.
I call you up and ask you if you'd like to go with me and see a movie.
Remember that haunting saxophone riff from Spooky? Let's dive into the story of Classics 4, a Jacksonville, Florida band that emerged in 1965. Founded by Dennis Yost, they became famous for their hits Spooky, Stormy, and Traces, songs that would later become cover standards, and the group started as The Classics, a local cover band featuring guitarist J.R. Cobb, bassist Walter Eaton, keyboardist Joe Wilson, saxophonist Greg Terrell, and drummer Dennis Yost. Yost, known as the stand-up drummer due to his unique playing style, brought a distinctive vocal element to their performances. Initially focusing on Venture's covers and instrumental versions of classics like Misty and Summertime, they evolved when audiences began requesting vocals. Their debut single Pollyanna, written by Joe South, showed their early Four Seasons-influenced style. However, after discovering another band called The Classics had already charted with Till Then in 1963, they added 4 inches to represent their core members. Between 1967 and 1969, Classics 4 enjoyed their golden era, with Spooky reaching #3, Stormy hitting #5, and Traces climbing to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100. 12. The Buckinghams, Chicago's British sound.
My baby, she made out of love, like one of those bunnies out of the play.
The catchy tune Kind of a Drag introduced America to the Buckinghams, a Chicago-based band formed in 1965. Carl Jemmeries, Nick Fortuna, John Paulus, Dennis Tufano, and Dennis McCauley created a unique sound that captured audiences nationwide. Their breakthrough came after winning a Battle of the Bands contest on Chicago's All-Time Hits TV show, earning them a 14-week performance slot. During the British invasion era, the show's producers suggested a British-sounding name, leading to the Buckinghams. After signing with USA Records, they initially covered hits by James Brown, the Beatles, and others. Their breakthrough came with Kind of a Drag, which topped the national charts and sold over 1 million copies. Moving to Columbia Records, they continued their success with hits like Don't You Care, #6, Susan, #11, and Hey Baby, They're Playing Our Song, #12. Despite regular appearances on major TV shows like Ed Sullivan and American Bandstand, their success began to wane by 1968. Their album In One Ear and Gone Tomorrow failed to produce hits, leading to personnel changes and eventual disbandment in 1969. Though they reunited in 1980 for a WLS-sponsored show, the absence of John Paulos, who had tragically passed away, marked the end of an era in Chicago's music history. 13. The T-Bones, A Tale of Two Bands. The T-Bones present a fascinating case of musical deception in the 1960s. This Liberty Records group, active from 1963 to 1966, had a unique twist. Most of their studio recordings were performed by the legendary session musicians known as the Wrecking Crew. To avoid confusion with a British band of the same name, they were known as the U.S. T-Bones across the pond. Their breakthrough came in 1966 with No Matter What Shape Your Stomach's In, a catchy tune based on an Alka-Seltzer commercial jingle. The song climbed to #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, prompting Liberty Records to quickly produce an album of the same name. However, the Wrecking Crew musicians who recorded the hit weren't interested in touring due to their lucrative session work in Los Angeles. This led to an unusual solution. Liberty created a separate public T-Bones group for appearances featuring Judd Hamilton, Dan Hamilton, Joe Frank Carallo, Tommy Reynolds, and Gene P. While this group became the face of the band, they didn't actually play on the hit record or the follow-up album, Sippin' and Chippin'. They did, however, record the band's final album, Everyone's Gone to the Moon and Other Trips. 14. The Cyrkle, From Beatles' Blessing to Brief Stardom.
I should have known you bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from.
The Cyrkle's story includes a fascinating Beatles connection. John Lennon himself suggested their distinctive spelling. Originally performing as the Rondells, this East Coast folk pop rock group featured Don Daneman on guitars and vocals, Tom Dawes on bass and vocals, Marty Fried on drums, and Earl Pickens on keyboards. Their breakthrough came with Red Rubber Ball, co-written by Paul Simon, which soared to #2 on the Billboard charts in 1966. This success led to them opening for the Beatles during their 1966 summer tour of America. They even appeared in and scored the soundtrack for the Roger exploitation film The Minx in 1969. 15. Four Jacks and a Jill, South Africa's international sensation.
It's a very strange world, and I thank you, Master Jack.
Four Jacks and a Jill began their journey in 1964 as the Nevadas, making history as South Africa's first long-haired band. After briefly adopting the name The Zombies, not to be confused with the famous British group, they added lead singer Glenys Lynn and became Four Jacks and a Jill. The band featured Clive Harding on bass guitar, Keith Andrews on rhythm guitar and organ, later replaced by Mark Paulos, and subsequently Till Hanneman, Bruce Bark handling lead guitar, harmonica, and saxophone, Tony Hughes on drums, and Glenys Lynn's distinctive vocals. Their unique blend of folk rock would soon capture international attention. Four Jacks and a Jill made waves far beyond their South African roots. After forming in Oregon, they struck gold with their hit song Timothy in 1968, but it was Master Jack that truly launched them onto the international stage, reaching #18 on the Billboard Hot 100 and climbing to #3 on the adult contemporary chart. The song dominated charts worldwide, hitting #1 in South Africa, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. While their follow-up single Hooi Mr. Nico only reached #98 in the United States, the group maintained their popularity in South Africa. Their enduring legacy continues through their work with various South African charities, producing educational sing-along storybooks that showcase their commitment to their homeland. 16. The Outsiders, Time Won't Let Them Fade Away. Cleveland's own rock and roll sensation, The Outsiders, led by guitarist Tom King, burst onto the scene with their unforgettable hit, Time Won't Let Me, in early 1966. The song peaked at #5 on the U.S. charts, paving the way for 3 more top 40 hits that same year. The band released 4 albums during their mid-60s heyday, but fate had other plans. In a twist of irony, they turned down Bend Me, Shape Me, which later became a massive hit for the American breed. Their 1967 album failed to chart, and subsequent singles couldn't crack the top 100. Despite numerous personnel and producer changes, the band dissolved in 1970. However, the Outsiders' spirit lives on through various reunions, with original members still performing across the U.S. as recently as 2011. 17. The Seeds, pioneers of garage rock and psychedelia.
You're pushing too hard, or pushing on me. You're pushing too hard, or what you want it to be. You're pushing.
The Seeds, fronted by Sky Saxon, born Richard Marsh, embodied the raw, edgy essence of garage rock. Formed in Los Angeles in 1965 with Jan Savage on guitar, Daryl Hooper on keyboards, and Rick Andridge on drums, the band quickly secured a contract with GNP Crescendo. Their signature song, Pushin' Too Hard, broke into the top 40 in early 1967. Follow-up singles, Mr. Farmer and Can't Seem to Make You Mine, carried their distinctive sound forward, though neither quite matched their breakthrough hits' success. The band continued recording through the late 60s, exploring post-Sgt. Pepper psychedelia and art rock. Despite their creative evolution, commercial success proved elusive, leading to their disbandment at the decade's end. Today, they're remembered as pioneers of both garage rock and psychedelia. 18. Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs' Sugar Sweet Success. Originally known simply as the Fireballs, this American rock and roll group found their groove in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The founding lineup featured George Tomsko on lead guitar, Chuck Tharp on vocals, Stan Lark on bass, Eric Budd on drums, and Dan Trammell on rhythm guitar. After rebranding as Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs, they achieved their greatest success with the chart-topping Sugar Shack. Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs struck gold with Sugar Shack, which dominated the Billboard Hot 100 for 5 straight weeks in 1963. The song's success extended to Billboard's R&B chart, where it claimed the top spot until the chart's temporary suspension from November 1963 to January 1965. Their sweet success earned them a gold record for 1963's top song, though the track only reached #45 in the UK. Riding this wave of popularity, the band scored another hit in 1964 with the catchy Daisy Pedal Pickin', which climbed to #15 on the Hot 100. While subsequent releases didn't match their earlier triumphs, these early hits secured their place in rock and roll history. 19. Mercy, Love Can Make You Happy. Florida's pop sensation Mercy crafted one of the era's most enduring love songs. Their 1969 hit Love Can Make You Happy, penned by Jack Sigler Jr., soared to #2 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and Adult Contemporary charts. The single's popularity exploded, selling over 1 million copies by mid-July and earning a gold record, though they wouldn't receive this recognition until 2009. During the song's meteoric rise, a controversy emerged when another group calling themselves The Mercy released an album featuring 3 female singers and the original recording. The song was later re-recorded for Warner Brothers with new band members, appearing on their album Love Can Make You Happy, which reached hash 38 on the Billboard 200. The group managed one more Hot 100 hit with Forever, peaking at hash 79 in June 1969. 20. Jay and the Americans, Come a Little Bit Closer.
She was a-sitting there giving me looks that made my mouth water.
Formed in the late 1950s, Jay and the Americans began their journey with John J. Traynor, Kenny Vance, born Kenneth Rosenberg, Sandy Dean, born Louis Sandy Yaguda, and Howard Kane, born Howard Kirschenbaum. Their greatest success came after Jay Black, born David Blatt, replaced Traynor as lead singer, and Marty Sanders, born Martin Joe Coopersmith, joined the lineup. The group's first chart success came in 1962 with She Cried, reaching hash 5 and later covered by various artists including the Shangri-Las and Aerosmith. After Traynor's departure, they continued their winning streak with hits like Only in America, originally intended for the Drifters, Come a Little Bit Closer, hash 3 in 1964, and Cara Mia, hash 4 in 1965. Though the group disbanded in 1973, their impact on music earned them induction into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2002. Notably, their version of Cara Mia found renewed success in the Netherlands, hitting hash 1 when re-released in 1980. These incredible bands may not dominate today's playlists, but their contributions to music history are undeniable. Each group brought something unique to the table, whether it was the McCoys' garage band energy, the Box Tops' gritty Memphis sound, or the Seeds' pioneering psychedelia. Their stories remind us how the 1960s shaped modern music in ways we're still discovering. While some of these bands enjoyed only brief moments in the spotlight, their influence extends far beyond their chart success. From the Left Banke's Baroque pop innovations to the crazy world of Arthur Brown's theatrical performances, these artists pushed boundaries and paved the way for future generations of musicians. Think we missed any forgotten 60s bands that deserve recognition? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating deep dives into music history. Share this video with fellow music enthusiasts who appreciate these hidden gems from rock's golden age. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey through the 1960s. Until next time, keep those vintage records spinning.